Hello scholars, this is Mr. Felino bringing you the first of 4 online lectures that you'll be viewing for our unit on the Great War, also known as World War One. So this lecture will be about setting the stage for war, basically covering the causes of the war. You're of course encouraged to take notes, and I always recommend 2-column notes or Cornell notes. That is where you put the main ideas on the left side and your supporting details on the right side. So first, just looking here at the opening slide, looks like we have a political cartoon, and if you kind of look to see what's going on here in the cartoon, it looks like you got some people labeled Russia, Belgium, England, Germany, Austria, France, Serbia, and Italy, and they're all kind of pointing at each other. So sort of the question of who's to blame, I think, is what the author's trying to get at here. So maybe by the time we finish this lecture, you'll have your own opinion on that. Okay? Alright, so the way we're going to learn about the causes of the Great War is we're going to basically examine them with an easy acronym called the main factors leading to war. Pretty simple, right? The M in main, our first one, is militarism. It's the glorification of armed strength. It's the idea that you can basically, well, I guess bully other nations if you wanted to through the size of your military. By the late 1800s, because remember, this war will break out in the early 20th century, the early 1900s, these nations in Europe had developed massive armies. And if one nation were to mobilize, that's one of your vocabulary words, which means to prepare its army for war, it basically forces the other nations, its other neighbors, you could say, or its other rivals, to mobilize their troops as well, simply in self-defense. And we'll see later on that this kind of has a chain reaction at the outbreak of the war. The A in the main factors is for alliances. We have 2 primary alliances at the beginning here where they'll kind of change their names a little bit once the war gets going, but before the war starts, it's called the Triple Alliance and the Triple Entente. The Triple Alliance, the 3 main countries you need to know are Germany, Italy, and Austria-Hungary, whereas with the Triple Entente, that will be Russia, Great Britain, and France. Okay? And these alliances sort of act as, you might say, another catalyst in the sense that they basically, if one member of the alliance declares war, goes to war against a different country, those other members of that alliance feel, well, obligated to back up their ally, right? And what it does is it kind of drags everyone into the war as soon as 2 nations go to war. Okay? The I stands for imperialism. This is European countries competing for control of, well, natural resources and such in Africa, Asia, South America, all throughout the world, and we learned all about this in the previous unit. So if you can think for a second like the size of Great Britain's empire at the early 20th century, that is, the largest land empire, right? The world has ever seen. And if you can imagine the size of the navy that would be needed to manage that empire and the number of troops that they could call upon, as all European nations were either participating in imperialism or playing catch up, so to speak, you basically have, well, competition, right, all across the world. And with that, the enormous navies and resources that they can draw upon to fight one another. Okay? The final factor here, the N in our MAIN, is nationalism. Okay? Nationalism is pride in your country. You might say extreme pride in your country. Nationalism in Europe had increased throughout the 1800s as various ethnic groups tried to gain more political unity. And I really like this political cartoon here because, again, we see sort of the author of the cartoon sort of depicting the outbreak of the war or the causes for the outbreak from a variety of forces. Here you have nationalism, which is the topic here. The arms race sort of refers to, well, the militarism part, right, the M. The the Triple Alliance and the Triple Entente. That's our alliances, right? And then I think this colonial rivalry sort of refers to the imperialism, right? And there's some other things here, but it's sort of showing like it's about to start a fire, right? Like it's about to burst into flames. This is sort of the kindling for the fire. They're blowing on the fire. It looks like there's some matches here that didn't quite go off, but it looks like we have one coming up, this lit match, that's about to set everything off. Okay? Okay, so that's your MAIN, factors leading to war. This is just sort of showing the alliance system. It says by 1907 the powers of Europe had divided into two armed camps, and they threatened world peace, because if any two go to war with each other, it drags in the others. Okay? The Balkan powder keg. Okay, so where does it all start? Basically what we have here is Austria-Hungary controlling some territories here in the Balkans, and it says nationalists in Serbia wanted to gain the provinces of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which is this would be Serbia here, and they want to gain these provinces in order to make a larger Slavic state, okay, and gain access to the Adriatic Sea, which is located right here. Austria-Hungary, of course, doesn't want to give up those territories. So it's also important to keep in mind here that Russia, being the largest of the Slavic nations, sort of sees itself as, maybe we'd say, like the big brother of these smaller Slavic states, okay, the protector, if you will. And it's only natural that they would support Serbia's goals, okay? Alright, so what actually sets off the war? Well, that comes on June 28th, 1914. The heir to the throne of Austria-Hungary, Archduke Francis Ferdinand, and his wife Sophie were visiting Sarajevo, capital of Bosnia, and as they rode in an open automobile, this man, right here, shot them both and killed them both. Okay, Serbian officials were implicated in the terrorist plot, and Austria-Hungary is going to be out for, well, justice. And you can, well, spoiler alert, they're going to declare war on Serbia, okay? And then we'll kind of see where it goes from there, because we just said that the system of alliances is a very, very dangerous setup for the war, okay? That is the final slide for the causes of the First World War. If you need to review any, you can of course go back and look through any of these at your leisure. And the next lecture that will be available online will deal with basically the outbreak of the war. See you next time. Thanks.